Hi ladies! Happy Monday! How are you all doing? It is absolutely beautiful out, and to be honest, I'm hiding out here on the back porch from my kids because they are still off from school today. So they're running a little crazy and wrestling around, and oh well, they'll figure it out on their own, right? Wyatt is in there somewhere amongst all of them, and they're running around and being a little bit too loud for me to do live, so I'm outside. Let me know with the thumbs up if you can hear me, because sometimes being outside I lose the Wi-Fi or it gets a little weak. So give me a thumbs up if you're on and you can hear me okay. I wanted to come on here today because there's certain things that have kind of bubbled up through the different groups that I'm in, and different conversations, and next month is CCHS Awareness Day, so there are a lot of those conversations going on about fundraising and everything else, but there are some comments in other groups that have kind of been bugging me and that go along with the same theme of fundraising and doing this approach versus another. And I'm here to tell you that I don't think there is one approach or another. No matter if you're talking about CCHS, my son's condition, no matter if you're talking about autism, no matter if you're talking about research or fundraising or raising awareness in general, I don't think there's just one way of doing things. And anybody who comes up and says they have the answer to solve a certain problem, I personally right away think they're full of crap. Because here's the thing, each of our situations are totally unique. We can all have the same exact diagnosis, say autism for example. I'll pick that one because it's a little bit more known than CCHS, because I know people listening are not just CCHS parents, so I'll pick autism diagnosis for example. It's very commonly known, there's a lot of research on it now, there's a lot of grant money available which then funds the research. And so that's kind of how the conversation came about with CCHS, is the cases are so rare that there isn't enough funding available for research. Hence we have this big awareness day next month. But every time when these conversations come up, there's always somebody who has a very strong opinion on how to do certain things. Whether it's the fundraising or whether it's the treatment you should pursue. For example, with autism, like I said, there are strong opinions on you should do ABA therapy and you should do speech and whatever the case may be. I don't think there's one way of doing things. And that's how I speak to my clients too. And that is why I think I'm a really great person to help you, because just because I did something one way doesn't mean that's the right decision for you. That is what worked for me, that is what worked for my family, but that may not be right for you, and that is totally fine. I can't stand it when people come up and say, this is the way you have to do it. Because you know what else comes with that comment? That if you don't follow that one way of doing things, you're a bad parent. You're putting your child at a disadvantage. You're not giving them every possible opportunity to succeed or do whatever. That implication always comes with that statement of, this is the way you should do things. No, this is one way of doing things. This is your answer to your particular problem, but it might not be a right answer for me. It might not be a right answer for the next family that comes along. So all the clients that I work with, it's an individual decision. So if you're asking me about different options, I will give you different options that are available for your particular situation, but you are the one in the end who has to find the answer, not me. I can't give you the answer. I can tell you what works for me, but I can't tell you what's going to work for you or your child. I have 4 kids. Each of them are totally different. What works for one doesn't work for the next one. The same with all of us. Your situation, even if you're dealing with the exact same diagnosis, is still totally different. not just from a medical perspective, but just because you are different than I am. Your child is different than my child. Therefore, your decision process has to be different. So I don't believe there's one answer. I don't have all the answers, and I'm not afraid to say that. If you've been following me for a while, you know that I'm very straight up. I'm very straightforward, and not everybody can deal with that, and that's totally fine. And I will give you advice on how to deal with certain stress management things. I will give you advice on how to deal with certain self-care issues. That's mainly what I focus on. And I will also give you stories on what worked for me and what didn't work for me. But the decision in the end on what you want to apply from everything that I teach is up to you. And I know that, and I would never claim that my way is the way, because I know it's not. And I'm in a field, the coaching field, where there are a lot of people out there who claim this is the secret, this is the way of doing things, this is the therapy approach. Therapists are great at that. This is the one way, you have to do this. And doctors tend to fall in the same category. And what I try to bring across to you, families out there who are dealing with this, is know that when they make that recommendations, it's usually because that is something that is working for them. That is something that they are comfortable with. But it may not be the right decision for you. And that's okay. So many families are scared to say, no, I'm sorry, I don't think it's a good idea. They would rather go along with somebody else suggests instead of trusting their own intuition and saying, maybe that worked for you, but it's just not the right decision for me. Too many families are scared to say that. I'm not one of them. I've never had an issue saying no. If anything, I have an issue in saying yes when it comes to my own self-care, and that's something I'm working on. And again, I'm perfectly straight up with you on that. I'm not one to say I have it all figured out. I don't. And I don't think anybody ever does. Because as you figure one thing out, you learn and grow and then come across something else you have to figure out. And I think that's the beauty of it all. It's a continuous learning process. Just like with our kids, what worked for one might not work for the other. What worked for one 6 months ago might not work now. So you change it. You try something different until you find something that works. And that's how I approach everything. Every family I either private message with, talk with on the phone, my one-on-one clients, my group programs. I give you the ideas. I help you brainstorm alternative ways. I help you look at things from a different perspective so that you can think outside of the box that most medical professionals like to put us in. But then in the end, the decision is always up to you. I would never tell you this is the one way you have to do things. And I think that's the downfall for most of us. We're looking for that one answer. That one answer that is going to fix everything, and there isn't one. I can give you a rundown of everything I've done, but it might not work for you, and you have to be okay with that. You have to be okay with knowing that in the end, that answer you're looking for has to come from you. You have to do the pros and cons. You have to do the research. You have to accept that responsibility that the answer in the end is uniquely yours. It has to fit your family. So I'd like you to think about that today, because you will come across a lot of different opinions. You will come a lot of different medical professionals. There are a ton of support groups online. You will come across opinions anytime you ask a question. Know your motives. Know what it is you are going for as the end result when you're looking for an answer. So let me give you an example. If I'm looking for something for Wyatt, say it's a speech issue, my main motive is not so much to get him to suddenly talk. And maybe that's different for you. Like I said, this is again where you have to make the decision. What are you in it for, and what is my objective? That might be totally different. So when it comes to speech issues with Wyatt, for example, my number one motive is not for him to actually speak. I personally believe speaking is a skill that can be learned at any time, when he's ready and when he's motivated. Because I can want this for him all I want. If he's not up for it, if he doesn't give a darn, I'll keep it a little lower today. If he doesn't give a darn, then he's not going to speak, no matter what I do. No matter if I hire the best speech therapist in the country. If he's not ready for it, he's not going to do it. So my motive is not for him to actually speak, it is for him to communicate, because I believe that those are two different things. Communication can happen by pointing at something. It can happen by signing, which is my preference and my son's preference. It can happen through a communication device. It can happen through flashcards. It can happen through speaking. So there's so many different ways, so many different answers on how to facilitate that, but you first have to know what is your ultimate goal. And then you pick out what works for your child. The same with stress management. There are so many different tricks and techniques you can use, but not all of them are going to work for everybody. Same with self-care. It depends on your situation. Do you have the right support system? Are you doing this on your own? What are your financial means? Because let's face it, that plays into it. Whether you're hiring a coach, or whether you're talking about getting a gym membership, or whether you're talking about going and getting a massage once a month, whatever it is, you have to take that into consideration. Are you with your kids 24/7? Well, if you are, then what you can do in regards to self-care or stress management is going to be completely different than if you have a babysitter once a week, or a nurse, or friends or family who come over to give you a break. So it's always an individual decision, and I would never claim to have the answers. And I wanted to share that message with you ladies, because I know each and every one of you is bombarded with that almost every single day. I'm willing to bet that, because I know I get it. I get it all the time. That I'm not doing X, Y, and Z right, and this is the effect it's going to have on my kid. And I'm just like, you know what? You don't know my kid, you don't know me, and you don't know what we do every single day behind closed doors. So don't assume that your way is the only way, and therefore is also right for my family, because it might not be. So I just wanted to throw that out there, let you think about that a little bit. Please know there's always more than one answer. There's always more than one way of doing things. And sometimes that way is also somewhat counterintuitive. Sometimes you come to a point where you've tried everything else and you're just going out on a limb and you have no idea how it's going to work, but you know you have no other choices. Sometimes you feel very strongly about something and you just go after it without even thinking about it. Whatever the case may be, there's never just one way. So when I talk with each and every one of you, whether that's through private messages, phone calls, group programs, one-on-one coaching, I always brainstorm with you. I'm not here to give you all the answers, because those are unique to you. I'm here to talk you through your situation and look at things from a different perspective, and therefore come up with alternative ways of dealing with your current problem, to then find an answer that works for you. Regardless of whether that would work for me or not, that's irrelevant. It's irrelevant whether it works for anybody else. The only important matter is, does it work for you? So I needed to throw that out there today. I needed to spread that message, because I see it time and time again in other support groups. Mind you, if you want to be in a support group that's a little bit more upbeat and a little bit more action driven and forward momentum and focusing on the positive and focusing on finding your answer, your unique answer, then feel free to jump on over to my group Momentum, Empowering Special Needs Moms, and I'll talk to you ladies there. Bye.